Alright, so Mr. Usher asked me to make this video in exchange for me being able to use his Raspberry Pis, which isn't a bad deal. So that's why I'm doing this. But let's see, where should we start? Okay, why don't we start with why I joined ComSci? So I think that ComSci is important if you want to go ahead and solve most of the world's problems and you want to be on the frontier of innovation. That's the main thing. And ever since I was a little kid, I've my inspiration has always been to, and I'm not saying this to like make myself seem as a better person than I am, but I've always just wanted to help people. And uh, being a doctor wasn't a good fit for me because you don't get that much clout. So I decided an engineer would be a better alternative. So yeah, that's kind of why I joined ComSci. And I think if you really want to make some good changes uh, to the world the way you see it, you're going to have to implement some form of um, coding, programming, maybe some application or whatnot. And I think that Mr. Usher's class would definitely teach you that. Whether you're taking principles, you'll get the basics, and if you're taking A, you'll definitely get a lot of experience with Java, and that's definitely gonna pay off later on. So what did I actually create? That's a good question. I started off with the app challenge, and then that our app idea was basically to create kind of like a stock market simulation app where we did that, and we weren't able to finish it on time because there was just so much stuff that had to be done that we had to learn, and it was in such a short amount of time. We had to learn how to use APIs. We had to learn how to code logic in Java. We had to learn how to design a user interface from scratch. We had to learn how to make this work on multiple devices sized in different proportions. We had to do so much stuff, and we had no prior experience to this. So what I realized was if I'm gonna if I'm gonna pursue this, I have to I have to work on projects. I have to work with languages before these competitions actually come up. That way I can have that experience. I can overcome that steep learning curve, and I can actually get the ball rolling. So that's basically why I started doing a bunch of my app projects, so that one day, if there was an opportunity that presented itself, I would be able to make the app quickly. I wouldn't have to learn too much because I would have already known it. All I would have to do is implement what I learned. And so, if you want to know my kind of strategy on going about learning a new language or learning a new skill, it would be to implement immediately after you learn it, or else you're not going to retain that information. And the way you do that with programming, or the way at least I did it, was pretty simple. So I learned a couple of languages. I learned Java, I learned Python, I learned a little bit of Bash for terminal, and then I also learned uh, what do you call it, Dart for Flutter. And I'll explain what all of those are. All right, so why did I choose Android, developing apps for Android over developing apps for Apple? Well, here, let's look at this. So every everything you make requires a language, right? Like, let's say you're writing a book. You're gonna have to know to either write it in English, in Latin. I don't know why you write in Latin, but or I don't know, Hindi, whatever you want to write in. You'd have to know what language you're doing. Now, the thing with apps is you can do different things with different languages. So, for example, if you're using, let's say, Java, okay, which is what you're going to be learning in CompSci A. Java, can you see this? No, you cannot see that. I'm going to go ahead and get a better marker. God, this is garbage. Oh my. Okay, so I just played over the video and realized that you can see it. So, Java is what you use to develop Android apps. Um, why only Android apps? Because Google, which acquired Android, decided to do that. They wanted to make it like that, and here's my understanding of why. It's because with Java, you can do two things. You can make a GUI. I swear that looks like you can't see it. All right. Or you, okay, all right, that marker works. So in Java, like I was saying, you can make a GUI and you can make logic. So what are these two things? A GUI, that's basically everything you can see. So think about it like this. When you open up an app, all the text you see, all the backgrounds you see, every color, every, quite literally everything you see. The GUI. Logic, what is logic? That's like, if something happens, then do this, right? So like if you click on a button, what happens in the background is, in case of Java, is the programmer will say if a button is clicked, I'm oversimplifying this by the way, if this button is clicked, then go ahead and move to this page or slide this animation across the screen. So kind of like that. So Java can do both of those things. Now there's other languages that can't do both of those things. Let me give you an example. C++, you cannot make a GUI. Python, I think you can make a GUI, but the problem with that is it's really freaking hard. So no one uses that to make GUIs. People usually use that to make to do logic. Things that can only make GUIs. Why don't we talk about CSS? Right? If you guys took an intro to comp sci class, I think you guys would have learned that. I didn't take that class, but from what I've heard, you guys do learn about HTML and CSS. So that would be an example of only in a language that can only do GUI. So Java is unique because it can do both. A couple of other languages can too, but they chose Java. Now for Apple, Apple, they use Swift. Why Swift? The same exact reason. Because it can do both. It's got the GUI right here and it's got the logic right here. So this way you only need to learn one language and you can do two things. Now, the thing with app development is that if you want to reach the biggest amount of users possible, you're going to have to make your apps for both iPhone and Android. That's because literally everywhere else except the United States and some countries in Europe, people mostly have Androids. Like if you look at it by country, people mostly have Androids. United States, we like clout. So we go with this guy right here. We go with Apple. And so a lot of us here have iPhones more than Androids. And so what ends up happening is if you want to reach a wide audience that's both worldwide and domestic, you're going to have to program your apps for both Android and Apple. All right, cool. So that means you're going to have to know two programming languages, Java and Swift. Now you can imagine about why that would be a pain in the ass, because you have to program your whole entire app from Java. It's not like there's a converter where you can like copy and it's not Google Translate. There's no Google Translate for this. You can't copy your code from Java and stick it and magically Swift will come out. None of that. You have to make your whole app in this and then rewrite it again in this. That's a very long process. So when I started off, I said, okay, I'm only going to learn one of these, for now at least. And then, so I ended up learning this guy right here, Java, because we were learning it in Comp Sci A. So yeah, I went with Java, and then where do you make your app? Where do you write it, right? What do you even do? Where do you start? Nobody knows. There's something called an IDE. This is something that you'll have to memorize. I'm going to admit, like, I'm a very bad person when it comes to memorizing, but there's some stuff that you have to memorize. This is one of them. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Integrated Development Environment. All right? What that means is it's a place, an application. Actually, I'm not going to use that word. It's a place where you can write your code to make an application. I hope I'm not confusing you. So you use Safari. Safari is an application. I hope everybody knows this. If you don't, then so what do I mean by that? It's like, what is an application that you use? Frick, I'm not going to use application. What is a place you go to go to the web? Safari, Chrome, right? So you'd use those applications. Okay, I'm going to have to use the word application. I'm sorry, guys. Application, hopefully you know what it is. An application is a program that has usually a user interface and has some logic which lets you perform a certain task. All right? So, the application that you're going to be using to make apps for Java, I should probably put it, okay, I'm going to draw it out here. So, for Java, that place where you make your app, there's a couple of them. One, which I highly recommend because it's supported by Google, and if you don't know, Google owns Android, so you want to follow Google. The place you go to make these Java apps, Java mobile apps, are Android Studio. These are some important names. You could do Eclipse. Probably do. I think you could do NetBeans as well. Is it NetBeans or NetBeans? Okay, I don't know, but I'll put it up on the screen, whatever it is. You can use these to program in Java. Now, these aren't the only ones. I'm sure there are like a lot. But you want to use this one right here. Why? Because it's supported by Google, which means every time Google launches a new update for Android, this guy right here, this baby right here, is going to get it first. You're going to be able to program for new devices using this one right here first. This guy's going to get it first. So you should probably use that. Use that. Don't even use the other stuff. It's garbage. Trust me. This one looks good. It has a dark mode, which I really like. You should probably use the dark mode. Yeah. So that's what you use for Java. Now, if you want to do Swift, which is the Apple side, don't forget Swift. Remember, these are both just programming languages. These are places to write the programming languages. Yeah, okay, that's how it is. Here, you would expect Apple to have like a bunch of them, right? A lot of people supporting Swift more than here. But guess what? There's only one place in the entire internet, where you can make apps that use Swift. Actually, I take that back. There are some other places, they're third party, but like nobody cares about them. And also they're like really shady and you don't want to get yourself into that, trust me. So, Swift, you're going to use Xcode. It's spelled like that. I know, it's like really weird, but you have to live with it. Xcode, like Xbox, Xcode. Yeah. Alright, so here we go. Here's my app that I made for my PT Create. I'm not sure if Mr. Usher already talked with you guys about it, but basically it's not supposed to look this complicated. Yeah, it's not supposed to be this overkill. You're practically just supposed to go on this website, code.org, and make this like basic little app, but I had to make an app for another class as well, or for a club, and so I decided to make it just use that app for the PT Create as well. So what's going on here? Why don't I just give you a little tour of how this thing actually works, so you guys don't have to do the same thing I do. Again, I'm saving your booty, and you see this right here? This is what was showing up before. So yeah, this video might just like end abruptly, so understand that is why. Anyways, so here you got your kind of tree, that's what I like to call it, the tree, and you have your manifest right here, which is basically once someone downloads your app, this tells you should there be internet permissions, does this app need to talk to anybody else. That's basically what's going on here. And it also tells you all your different pages and stuff that you have in your app. Java, what does that sound like? Java is basically going to be your it's going to be the way that you oh god, excuse me. It's going to be the way that you program your app basically. This is all backend right here. This is how many lines of code is this actually? Just to oh wow, look at that, 1,000. That's like one of these. So yeah, just showing off a bit here, and then if you want to get to how it actually looks like, you go here, right there. This is kind of what the app looks like. It's kind of drag and drop the way it works in Android Studio, but at the same time not at all, because what ends up happening is if you strictly drag and drop, items are going to move around all over the place, and that's because you need to do something called set a constraint. So right here it says constraint layout. What that means is that all the buttons I have right here will resize in accordance with the screen size. So if I'm using like a small Nokia, it'll resize to that, versus if I'm using like a large Galaxy Fold. So yeah, that's basically what's going on here. And then yeah, that's how it is. So why don't we just start up the app and check out how it works. Oh, right here you can check you can select different devices to run it on. So let's say you don't have an Android phone, but you still want to develop apps for Android. You can actually create a virtual device. And so right now I got the I don't even know what this is. I don't know why that's there, but I got the Pixel 2 XL. That's kind of my representation of a larger phone. And then I got this Nexus. I think I had that for testing for smaller phones. But either way, let's go ahead and fire up the Pixel. Alright, so we got the thing fired up right here, virtual device. So here's the app running, and then basically I can click these buttons, and there we go. Okay. So just making that button click and make it be there in the right place is also a pain in the ass, because being able to determine and precisely kind of make a guess of where your buttons are going to be on different layouts is really, really hard. So here we go. Anyways, I press this button, I go here, got a description of kind of the event that's going on. I should probably tell you what this app is for, huh? So this app is it basically gives you a bunch of tests on these different things. So here we go. If I go on competitions, it'll give me a test on accounting 2. If I swipe, I can get a test on journalism. Yeah, so if I go here, you're not supposed to be there. God. Anyway, so if I start the test, it's going to go here. Now, a couple of things to notice here. We got the X, meaning I want to leave the test, and then, there's a little warning message. If, let's say, I haven't chosen anything and I want to go forward, it'll tell me, nope, choose an answer. That was also really hard, because the way this works is a bit different. It's not just different pages. It's technically one page, but once I do this, it's just replacing that page with another page. That's all it's doing. So it gives you the illusion that it's multiple pages. So what's going on here is I got the question number right here. And the cool thing about this, and the reason why I have so much code, is because each of these questions are randomized. So getting that to happen is extremely difficult, because you have to figure out what questions the user hasn't already done, and then what questions the user still needs to do. And you want to be able to keep that in memory, and all the while not having the phone completely slow down because your code is crap. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some random answers here. So yeah, just some typical business questions. And as you can see, the number there increases as I go along, which, remember, is hard, because it means that I have to this is basically independent of the page. It has to remember what page number it's on, even though the page number could be different every given time. And that might not make sense right now, but that's how it is. So here, I'm going to end this test There we go. We're done. It'll tell me right here what my score is. So, that's from a previous save. But anyways, today is 5/20/2019. Gives the time and then gives the score. Not a good score, but that's not what matters here. What matters is that I can have as many scores as I want. This list will actually continue on, and I can scroll, and I can basically have as many scores as I want. Now, I wanted to make this app actually usable, so you don't want these results to just disappear after one day. You want to see if you're actually improving. And so what I did was I gave it the capability of, you can basically exit out of the app, you can close it, you can do whatever you want, restart your phone, whatever. I'm not going to do that because that takes a lot of time when you're on a virtual device. But you're going to have to take my word for it that that this information right here is stored onto the device storage. And the way I do that is, that'd actually be a pain in the butt. I don't think I want to do that. Alright, anyway, so if you look at the folders in the device, you'll actually see a empty list, and all I did was create an empty list, just a normal text file, and then I added a bunch of these dates, a bunch of these times, and scores to go along with it. And this works for basically all of these different ones. So you can see those are my scores from another date, of different things. So that's how my project works here. And if I go back enough, I'll go to my home page, and then I can check out all these other tests as well. So that's basically how this app works. And I hope you learned something from this. Programming can be fun, but I gotta warn you, there is a big learning curve, and don't give up when that happens. There are gonna be times when you just want to quit, and because it seems impossible to figure out. But trust me, the internet is your friend. Someone has been in your shoes, so you can overcome it. All you have to do is just put in a little bit more effort. So that's it for me, Mr. Usher. I hope that I get to keep the Raspberry Pi over the summer now. And I'm gonna plug my Instagram. Follow me if you want. DM me if you have any questions. I'd love to help out. And I hope that you guys really end up pursuing a career in computer science.